I'm going to give you some examples of tasks that we used to give to analysts and consultants coming in that now AI has taken over. Document comparison. Obviously, we need to review after whatever AI says, but document comparison used to take a lot of time, and guess what? AI does it now. I remember for myself, I had to create this image of a sample receipt. And rather than reaching out to our lovely analysts, I was just like, I'm just going to use AI and create an image of one. And it worked. Writing an email, drafting an email to a client, all of these are taken over by AI. So before you start panicking, you're like, oh my God, how in the world am I, from a new grad perspective, going to bring any type of, we like to call value, to any type of team? And how can I stand out? And the answer to that is two types of skills. The world of M&A is such a fascinating world. It's fast-paced, you got your twists and turns, but what I find the most interesting is watching drama unfold when another company either acquires one company or when two companies come together, because that's when you realize, begin to see power dynamics between people and also how people just in general work with each other. So it's not surprising to me when you guys reach out and you're like, Lana, how do I get into M&A? How do I make myself stand out as a candidate so I'm not like everybody else? And more recently, as I've been teaching, I've been getting the question of, is AI going to be taking over my role for entry roles? And the answer to that is yes. So in this video, I'm going to show you what types of skills you'll need to surpass what AI can do to stand out as a candidate if you really want to get into this absolutely fascinating world. So let's get into it. If you want to get into consulting just in general, it's very important to understand the context before you go ahead and attack or take action. So I'm going to give you guys the context and the background of what I do day to day for you to understand why I'm providing you guys these types of skills that you would need in M&A to stand out beyond AI. So there are basically 8 steps, shall we say, within any type of acquisition. And I'm talking about an acquisition for simplified terms because there are many different types of transactions in the M&A world. There could be divestitures. There could also be hostile takeovers, and those are different. But I'm going to simplify it down with the example of a acquisition. So in this case, whenever you hear about investment bankers, they usually work on the sell side of M&A. Consultants usually work on the buy side of M&A. And what that basically means is, let's say Lana Banana Co. wants to be sold. So I'm going to reach out to my investment bankers, and they're going to create me basically sell sheets for a big company. They're going to say, this is why Lana Banana's company is so amazing, because I sell purple and green and red and pink bananas, okay? And this is how much I'm anticipating the revenue to be in the next 5 years, 10 years, and that impacts the valuation of my company. And then let's say Big Berta, the buyer, would like to buy Lana's bananas. And so what happens is Big Berta would hire their consultants to come in to complete a whole slew of many things. But one of the things that my team had focused on, or at least what I focused on, was due diligence. And the purpose of due diligence is basically saying, okay, Big Berta, Lana Banana said that her company is valued at $100 million. But we're going to complete your IT due diligence, HR due diligence, operational due diligence, and we're basically going to see whether the actual value of the company makes sense in terms of what's going on day to day. So here's an example. I'd focus on technology due diligence. We would analyze technologies, let's say the software and the systems. Software needs to be refreshed. They're running Windows 98. That's going to cost you $2 million, okay, Big Berta? So, Big Berta, are you actually going to pay $100 million if down the line, very soon after the acquisition, you're going to be updating the systems, which is going to cost you 2 million buckaroos. And then Big Berta is probably going to be like, oh, you know what? No, probably not. So then it adjusts the dollar value down. Now, it doesn't have to be 98 million, right? It can be something else that's negotiable because there's a whole lot of other valuations inside of the price of the company. So anyways, that's what my team had focused on, and that's usually where consultants from the buy side come in. And I actually prefer the buy side over the sell side. Whenever you see investment bankers talk about transactions, many of the times they're talking about creating these sell sheets to help sell a company, and that's just not my vibe. So we basically go line by line. We're just like, what are some of the assumptions that have been made by Lana Banana Co. to actually come to the expected revenue? And so the value that we bring, and I say we as in like the consultants helping from the buy side, is not just due diligence, but we also help with, okay, let's say you guys go through with the transaction and you're signing papers, whatnot. How are you going to plan from day 1 to day 100 after your two companies merge together? So there's a whole slew of many plans. For example, migrating the email domains, migrating the HR payroll information. So there's this project management aspect, or project setup, I should say, that comes with mergers and acquisitions. And then the last part of what our team can also focus on is post-merger integration. And it's basically, okay, we've made this plan of day 1 to day 100. How are you actually going to execute this plan? And so we come in actually as the project managers to help manage between the two companies. And that is usually where drama unfolds. Now you understand where I'm coming from when it comes to the skills. So what skills would I suggest? First of all, I distinctly remember, just in general, reading the comments that a partner had made after a slew of interviews. And I zoned in on one interviewee. And that comment had said, this person basically didn't have any ego and they were very curious to learn. And I was just like, it's quite interesting, because depending on your team, every team has a different culture. Every team has a different set of values. If you're lucky, you can get with a team that has values that are aligned to you. And you're going to ask, is there work-life balance in consulting, especially in M&A? And the answer is, it depends on how you're going to prioritize your time. You have control over your time. It's a little bit more difficult when you first get started, but if you're going to work for any type of team and they're not going to respect your time, honey, it's time that you look elsewhere, if that's what you care about. On the bright side, though, you do get to learn a lot and very fast. That's why a lot of people like consulting. And so from there, I was just like, Mans did not talk anything about technical skills, about his Excel or PowerPoint. Granted, we don't really test for any of that, but it was just surprising to me. So then I would narrow down the skills to be 2 categories. Of course, you got your technical skills. Can you do basic Excel functions, sum ifs, index match, Kegger, what if analysis? Be able to build a bot out of AI would be really cool. I think a lot of people are learning about that. So I would make sure that I understand how AI in general works. So that's pretty much it. A lot of the other formulas you're going to learn on the job. But most importantly, many models have already been pre-built. Sometimes you're not building a model all by yourself and you have a whole team to support you. That's literally the role of those higher up than you. PowerPoint, do some formatting. That's pretty much it for an expectation of a new grad. I would not worry, period, about the technical skills, okay? Then you get into the soft skills, and this is where you're going to surpass what AI can do. The first skill is, how are you going to make use of numbers, double tap into those numbers to see what the story is, and translate that into English language if you're going to interact with a client in English, to tell the client what you found. And let me just pause. You're not directly talking to clients straight from the get-go, okay? You're usually presenting to someone higher up than you. Understanding patterns and turning that into a story. This goes into the second skill set, which I personally believe is the most important skill set that, sadly, because of COVID, has been lost. And that is knowing how to have a conversation. My dear friends, the amount of people that I have met, especially coming in as a new grad, who cannot hold a simple conversation. And I'm not talking about like for a project. I'm talking about going to these networking events, which, by the way, guys, I have a video about like how to have coffee chats, and you can check those out. But to actually hold a conversation and talk to somebody and be curious, like genuinely curious about these individuals, is how you're going to build relationships. And these relationships are what's going to pay off. I don't want it to sound transactional, but it really is going to pay off months, years, whatever down the line. Because as you're going to move up in a company, if you're looking to grow within any type of company, but especially in M&A, it's all about whether or not people trust you. And people will trust you if they can have a conversation with you. I remember specifically this one networking event, or even coffee chats that I've had, and the individual was not making eye contact with me. It can be a difficult skill, but it is a very crucial skill. And I'm not talking about like staring at the person and not blinking, okay? You're not staring into the depths of their soul. You're providing them a message that you are listening and you are interested in what they have to say. People subconsciously are not going to hear all the words that you're going to say, but they're for sure going to remember how you made them feel. So a lot of folks coming in first time, when they are presenting in general to a manager or even to a client, we do get our juniors to present. They're reading off the slides. And it's like, especially if it's virtual, guys, and you're screen sharing, there is no relationship that you can build when you're reading off of a slide. And I've even seen like managers, senior managers, not so much partners, but managers, senior managers, just read off of a slide and it just feels so dry. So then you might be questioning, well, Lana, how am I, especially starting off in an interview, how am I going to prove that I am capable to have a conversation? The answer to that is most of the time you're going to be in interviews where it's like two forms of interviews. The first is going to be the technical. So you're going to solve a case study. The second one, most important one, is the behavioral. They're going to see whether you're a right fit, but they're going to have conversations with you and they look at body language. They look at, like I said, eye contact. They look at how you're able to hold up a conversation. And these are all very important pieces of how you can stand out against all the other candidates. I'm going to be quite frank with you. I would say like 80% of the people that we would interview or we have interviewed have the background of finance. They were in consulting club. They were in the finance club. They studied business in school, or they might have studied engineering. Okay. And that's really about it. So then we go on and we ask like hobbies and whatnot. And they're like, I golf, or I work out, I hang out with friends. So honestly, it's very difficult on a resume to actually stand out. Having a conversation is how you stand out, okay? So all that to say, those are the two skill sets that will set you up beyond AI, because AI can only take in what the human gives it to do. You got to think critically, and I would say that's more of a technical skill, but you got to think critically about what prompts you want to give AI. But at the same time, you are there to make that connection with people on your team, with the client. You are there to tell that story. AI is not going to tell the story. The last thing I'll say in this video is I remember sitting in on this, overhearing, I should say, a business meeting in this restaurant. And this big company, I won't say the name of course, but this big company, this guy was just like, we are using AI and it is making things so much faster with contract analysis and contract drafting, but I'm still for sure going to need a consultant or a lawyer or like a third party company to come in, because if something gets messed up, who am I going to sue? I can't sue ChatGPT. So if you are worried about your job being taken over in general, or consultants are just going to be washed away in general, the answer is there will be fewer jobs unless you can find other ways to provide value. But most importantly, you're still going to exist because companies need to find somebody who is liable. So with that said, I hope this is helpful for you to give you some background within the M&A world and again, how you can stand out. And I'll see you in my next video if you're interested about what a chief of staff actually does, to learn more about some new roles that you never really hear about. Toodaloo!